are our top stories. Brazilian woman arrested with 3 billion naira heroin at Abuja airport, says NDLEA. Warri Kingdom holds annual Thanksgiving service. Akwa Ibom monarchs endorse Tinubu, Akpabio, Eno ahead of 2027. New tax regime aims to curb double taxation, says NRS. Zelensky calls for more air defenses as Kyiv faces Russian strikes. Falcons shine as Stars dominate IFFHS Africa 11. Now to the news in full. In a major drug bust, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has intercepted a Brazilian woman at Abuja's Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport with heroin worth over 3 billion naira. The suspect, 30-year-old Ingrid Benavides, a private security officer in Brazil, was arrested on Friday, January 23, 2026, after arriving on a Qatar Airways flight. NDLEA operatives discovered 30.09 kilograms of heroin concealed in 21 factory-sealed packs of Brazilian coffee, marking the largest heroin seizure at the Abuja airport to date. The agency's spokesperson, Femi Babafemi, said Benavides claimed she brought the drugs under the guise of visiting Nigeria for holidays. In related operations, NDLEA intercepted 2 passengers at Lagos Murtala Mohammed International Airport carrying nearly 4,000 tablets of tapentadol and tramadol concealed in food items. Meanwhile, the agency's Marine Command seized 1,848 kilograms of cannabis from a boat at Jakonde Beach, Lekki, Lagos. In Kaduna State, 2 suspects were arrested for transporting explosives in commercial buses destined for Kano and Kaduna. Babafemi added that intelligence-led operations across the country led to multiple arrests and the seizure of illicit drugs including tramadol, skunk, pentazoxine injections, cannabis seeds, and codeine syrup, as the NDLEA intensifies efforts to curb drug trafficking and smuggling networks nationwide. The Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State has held a special prayer session for the safe release of 177 worshippers abducted from churches in Komin Wali community 1 week after the incident. The prayer service took place at Tawalui Baptist Church in Maraban, Kajuru on Sunday, drawing Christian leaders from across Kaduna State and other parts of northern Nigeria. Families of the abducted worshippers continue to await news of their loved ones. The victims, members of Evangelical Church Winning All and Cherubim and Seraphim churches, were kidnapped during Sunday services when armed men invaded the community, forcing congregants into nearby forests. While some later escaped, many remain in captivity. Reverend Joseph Hayab, CAN chairman for the 19 northern states and the Federal Capital Territory, urged churches to strengthen security measures at worship centers. He called on congregations to combine prayer with vigilance to prevent further attacks. Reverend Enoch Kaura, CAN chairman in Kajuru local government area, condemned the abduction and criticized initial government denials, calling for urgent action to secure the release of the captives. He highlighted that attacks on churches in the area are not new, citing previous abductions and killing of clergy and their families. The session was also attended by Kaduna State CAN chairman Reverend Caleb Marji, along with bishops and clergy from various Christian denominations, as the church continues to pray for peace and protection in the region. The Warri Kingdom celebrated its annual Thanksgiving service on Sunday, January 25, 2026, at Iwere Land with grandeur and joy. The event, which started on Saturday in praise, began with the arrival of His Majesty, the Olu of Warri, Okiamia Tuwashi III, and his family. The Iwere Praise Choir led the congregation in hymns and lively worship, while prayers were offered for the Kingdom, Delta State, and Nigeria. Dignitaries in attendance included Dr. Kingsley Amu, representing the Delta State Governor, Dr. Isaac Wiliki, and members of the Delta State House of Assembly. Scripture readings, sermons, and Thanksgiving offerings highlighted the celebration. His Majesty offered special prayers for Iwere land and its people, while the Delta State Governor's representative delivered a goodwill message.
Your Royal Majesty, you are very unique in every way. Thanksgiving is appreciation. You have always aligned with the principles of thanksgiving and its appreciation. Anything that is not appreciated depreciates. Anything you appreciate appreciates. So we want to thank you for perpetually and continually thanking God. You have done this.
The service concluded with a final hymn and closing remarks from Chief Dame Ebiyemi Omashege, leaving the congregation uplifted and grateful. Traditional rulers in Akwa Ibom State have endorsed President Bola Tinubu, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and Governor Umo Eno ahead of the 2027 general elections. The endorsement was announced at a rally held at the Ikotekpene Township Stadium, where monarchs from across the Ikotekpene Senatorial District converged in a rare show of unity. The royal fathers said their decision was based on the developmental records and leadership performance of the trio at both federal and state levels. They praised President Tinubu's economic reforms, Senate President Akpabio's contributions to national and regional development, and Governor Umo Eno's inclusive development across Akwa Ibom State. Chairman of the Akwa Ibom State Traditional Rulers Council, Akoko Udofia, said the endorsement followed a unanimous decision of the council. Governor Umo Eno and Senate President Godswill Akpabio, who received the endorsement, described the gesture as unprecedented and thanked the traditional institution for their support. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has said former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso faces serious political challenges ahead of the 2027 general elections. In a statement on Sunday, Keyamo said Kwankwaso boxed himself into one of the tightest corners of his political career, citing his refusal or indecision to accept an earlier political olive branch from the All Progressives Congress. Keyamo explained that Kwankwaso's presidential ambition is at the center of his dilemma, noting that none of the major parties are likely to pick him as a candidate in 2027. He said the APC and APC are focusing on southern candidates, while the ADC ticket is considered Atiku's to lose. He further warned that the northern-based New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, is still largely a one-state party, weakened by recent defections, and may not maintain its grip on Kano. According to Keyamo, Kwankwaso's calculations rule out supporting a northern presidential candidate in 2027, as it could delay his own ambitions until 2031. The minister said that 2031 now appears to be Kwankwaso's most realistic presidential window, but stressed that the alliances he forms in 2027 will be crucial for his future political influence. He outlined that Kwankwaso's options are limited to the PDP, APC, or Labour Party, each with significant challenges. The federal government has announced fresh measures to tackle double taxation, expand the tax net, and improve compliance under Nigeria's new tax laws. According to a frequently asked questions document issued by the Nigeria Revenue Service, the new tax framework provides reliefs for foreign-sourced income and recognizes double taxation agreements to ensure the same income is not taxed twice. The NRS explained that Nigerian residents whose income has already been taxed abroad may claim relief within the limits of Nigerian tax rates and timelines set by law. The measures are aimed at encouraging cross-border investment while reducing excessive tax burdens. The document also clarifies the tax treatment of collective investment schemes, which are now treated as companies for tax purposes, with income taxed at the scheme level and distributions regarded as dividends to investors. On foreign income, the NRS said dividends from export-oriented businesses as well as income earned outside Nigeria are repatriated through approved channels and exempt from tax. To promote innovation, companies are now allowed to deduct up to 5% of their turnover for research and development expenses incurred in Nigeria. The new tax also targets the digital economy, making non-resident digital service providers with significant economic presence in Nigeria liable to income tax and value-added tax. Virtual asset service providers are required to file monthly and annual returns, while all taxable persons must register and obtain a taxpayer identification number. The NRS warned that failure to comply with registration, filing, or remittance obligations will attract penalties, interest, and possible prosecution. The reforms, anchored by the Nigeria Tax Administration Act 2025, form part of the federal government's broader fiscal agenda to boost revenue, improve transparency, and reduce Nigeria's reliance on borrowing while aligning the country's tax system with global best practices. Electricity distribution companies have expressed concerns about the federal government's directive that prepaid meters must be installed free of charge for all electricity customers. The reaction follows a statement by the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, who warned that any DISCO official or installer found collecting money for meters would be prosecuted. The minister gave the directive during an inspection of newly imported smart meters at the APM terminals in Apapa, Lagos. He said the meters procured under the World Bank-funded Distribution Sector Recovery Program must be installed for consumers at no cost, regardless of their electricity band. However, operators within the power distribution companies say the policy does not address cost recovery, noting that the meters described as free would still be paid for by the DISCOs over time. They also raised concerns over who would bear the cost of installation, stressing that meter installers are not staff of the DISCOs and must be paid for their services. The operators warned that the directive could disrupt the existing meter assist provider scheme, which allows customers to purchase meters directly and be reimbursed through energy credits. They called on the federal government and regulators to engage stakeholders, clarify funding arrangements, and avoid policies that could strain the power sector and create confusion among electricity consumers. You're watching our daily news roundup. We'll go for a short break. When we come back, more news stories on the foreign scene and on sports. Do stay tuned.
Don't miss out on exciting news, events, and more. Stay connected by following us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Atlantic Media and TV.
Welcome back. Over now to the foreign scene. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling on allies for increased air defense support as Russian attacks leave Kyiv without heat amid freezing winter temperatures. Hundreds of buildings in Kyiv remained without heating for a second day after Russia struck Ukrainian energy infrastructure in what officials say has been the toughest winter of the nearly 4-year conflict. President Zelensky, speaking in Vilnius, said Russian forces have launched more than 1,700 attack drones and over 1,380 guided aerial bombs and dozens of missiles just this week, overwhelming Ukraine's air defenses. He stressed the urgent need for additional missiles and said Ukraine continues to work closely with the United States and European allies to strengthen protection of its skies. Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko confirmed that over 1,600 high-risk apartment buildings remain without heat following the attacks. Sub-zero temperatures and repeated strikes have slowed repair efforts to restore electricity and heating for residents. In Vilnius, Zelensky attended a ceremony marking the 1863 uprising in Poland and Lithuania against Tsarist Russia. Polish President Karol Nawrocki drew parallels between the historical struggle for freedom and the current threat posed by modern Russia. President Zelensky warned European leaders not to underestimate the ongoing threat, urging them to remain vigilant while Russia's military continues to operate. Poland and Lithuania have been key supporters of Ukraine, recently supplying hundreds of generators to help with the energy crisis caused by Russian attacks. Meanwhile, US-mediated talks between Ukraine and Russia on a potential end to the war concluded with no breakthrough, though Zelensky describes the discussions as constructive, with plans to meet again in Abu Dhabi next week. And on sports news, Nigerian players have dominated the International Federation of Football History and Statistics Women's Africa 11, with Super Falcons stars earning multiple spots in the 2025 Team of the Year. The selection, released by the IFFHS at its Women's CAF Africa 11 for 2025, includes goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie, defenders Michelle Alozie and Ashley Plumtree, as well as midfielders Christy Ucheibe and Rashidat Ajibade. Nnadozie was named in goal following impressive performances for Nigeria and her club sides in Europe, while Alozie and Plumtree were selected for their strength and consistency in defense. In midfield, Ucheibe and Ajibade were recognized for their defensive stability and attacking creativity. The Africa 11 also features top players from South Africa, Morocco, Zambia, and Malawi, reflecting the growing competitiveness of women's football across the continent. The IFFHS said the selection is a projection for 2025 based on statistical analysis and expert assessment of performances at both club and international levels. The federation, founded in 1984 and recognized by FIFA, is widely regarded for its global football rankings and annual awards. Manchester United interim manager Michael Carrick is closing in on a Premier League record after leading his side to a dramatic 3-2 victory over league leaders Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium. United, who were level at 1 goal apiece at halftime, produced an impressive second-half performance to claim all 3 points. Goals from Brian Mbeumo, Patrick Dorgu, and substitute Matheus Cunha sealed the win. Arsenal had taken the lead in the 29th minute through Jorian Timber, but United responded shortly after as Mbeumo capitalized on a defensive lapse to equalize. Patrick Dorgu put United ahead early in the second half with a powerful strike from outside the box, before Arsenal drew level again in the 84th minute through Mikel Merino. However, Matheus Cunha struck deep into stoppage time with a long-range effort to secure victory for the Red Devils. The result marks Carrick's second straight win since taking charge of Manchester United and lifts the club to 4th place on the Premier League table, 1 point ahead of Chelsea. Arsenal remain top of the standings, though their lead has been cut to 4 points. And with that, sports news, we come to the end of our daily news roundup for today here on Atlantic TV. Do also follow us on all our social media platforms for more news, stories, and headline updates. Thank you so much for watching. I am Nkechi Tejere. Have a good day.